Hello techies, I'm Divya here. On behalf of CyberBrainer, don't you think the world of tech is evolving faster than ever? Now is the perfect time to dive in and build the skills that will take you places. With CyberBrainer, we are putting you in the driver's seat of your own future. We at CyberBrainer don't just teach your interest. We believe that knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that truly sets you apart. Whether you're diving into data science, mastering artificial intelligence, or exploring the world of cybersecurity, our courses are designed to give you the skills that matter. So let's jump into the session and make the future yours today. Thank you.
Core library functions are the functions in the SS, and they help us to contact with the Marketing Cloud object site, and anything that you see like is most probably the object only, like trigger, cell definition, data extension, account user subscribers, or whatever has been related with the already very personal real entity. That is your object only. Let's go to the Cloud Bridge, and then if I'm just going to click at this tab, in the first time I get running with server, and then we are loading the core. And then what we are doing is that if we need to pull this function called add of this object called the extension, we need to pass the properties or the information that is required to save this data extension in Marketing Cloud account. All the information that you would pass will be passed. The name of the data extension customer key and what all fields that we want to print. We are going to pass this in the form of an object. An object, always restores the value in the form of a key and value pair. Let's come over here and go to the extensions. First of all, we'll see that whether or not the state extension is created or not, and if it is not created, then we are going to create this one. And it is already created. What I'll do is that I'll write today's JT here. That just seems. Now let's go and run this. Let's see. Literally, you can try this code and this should work because the changes that we're making right now, I think it is not taking. Earlier, I think we did with these two extensions, this one and this has got like 3 fields, field 1, field 2, field 3. This is the same code, but right now it is like not taking a change. We are going to have some time and then it will work. The next thing that we discussed is that how we can get the value from the AMPscript variables. We have this sesh code and this is our AMPscript code. What we want to do that we have stored my name is hello in this variable called at the name in our AMPscript code. We have one variable in our sesh that is named. I want to extract the value from the AMPscript variable and store this into sesh variable. I'll work with this entire code. I'm going to test it over here. What should happen? That we are extracting this and then we are using this write function to print the content of this variable called name. Now we can should do an operation. Say for this what is printing? My name is. This is how we can extract the value from the AMPscript variable and store this. Now we have to use this function to get value of the variable object. Now, on the other hand, we have another way, like the other way around, is that if you want to transfer, you want to share the from sesh variable to the AMPscript variable. Let me just go through and fetch it over here. What we are doing? We are using this function called setValue of the object called variable, and then we are setting up a value. What value that will show you is that I want to pass this value, my age is 10, into a variable called ageWrite. This is the AMPscript variable we have because we have appended at the rate in the starting. And then we are using this v function to print the content of the variable that is declared in the AMPscript language. Let me progress the change and see whether we are able to producing. My age is 10, right? Now we have the content over here. Let me do one thing and ask it. Now I will run this input again and the like. Let's start. We are not getting any output. Anybody can tell me what could be the potential reason why they are not able to get the output now? Earlier, when I placed this code over here, we were getting the correct output right. But now when I have placed this line like line number 9 or line number 2, now we are not getting any output. You fell to the publish, as you can see that it is not printing anything. What it is? A blank white display. Why is it that it is not giving me the age right? It is not printing anything. Any guesses? What's happening is that whatever line we write, it is always executed in the sequence. First of all, what will happen? The line number 2 will be executed, and as of now, this age variable does not contain anything. It contains blank right. That is why it is not able to print anything. But now, when we go ahead in the sequence, we go to line number 4, 5, 6, and here, like in the line number 6, we are assigning something to this variable for the age right now. After that, if I'll write this, then it will print, right? Always remember that. I mean, when we have a large number of lines, then we always make this mistake that somewhere that the variable is declared above the code or sometimes below the code. We have to ensure that the signal that we are writing in the code, it should be meaningful. Like it should be the correct number that we are using, or we are accessing the variable after only we are assigning the variable. The code is always executed in the sequence. That's what we discussed. Now, after that, let's discuss this thing now. In the last class, we discussed how we can access the value from the object, right? Only best remember this thing that if any object is given, this is the object, right? Whenever you see the curly braces, it means this is an object. Now, if I want to extract this state value, we can do that using that mechanism, right? Dot, dot, dot. If we talk about this website, this is a website which provides the weather information that will be in this city. What is the weather in the city? Where the temperature, and they have exposed this JSON file that we can consume the data, and then we can utilize this to kind of in our program or maybe in our application. Whatever this, they have just exposed this data for us to access this or for us to use this. This is a JSON file that we can utilize. Now what I want to do tell you, let me open the network tab. Before that, let's do this. This is the JSON file, and we have got this structure in which, we can expand and collapse. Now, if I want to access this thing, you see, if I want to access, let's say, air temperature right now, it is the value. The value of the air temperature is 14. If I want to access this 14, when you store into my data extension, into one column how I can do that. You just that, how I can access this thing, right? The way we access the values from this object called the student, my Joule type, the same we need to do for this one. Even if it is incorrect, that is in, but at least write how I can access this one. 14 and what all I need to, what would be the entire syntax? I'll keep writing over here. You can understand me. Let me help you. First of all, we will write an observation set. First of all, we are from obsolete. We will go from outside to inside, right? Always. Imagine that we have a bigger box. Inside that will be small boxes, small box. And in the very bottom inside, just we have a small gift or something. First of all, we have a bigger box called observations. Now observation. Now you can tell me, do you want me to expand or collapse, whatever it is. You can tell me, I will do that. We'll start with the observation set observations dot and make data dot. Like the way we access this thing. If you want to access, let's say for bit type, what we will do? We'll go my student dot. Now this is like for B is 1, right? We'll go for B is 1 dot for bit type. Similarly, what we will do over here? We have first of all observations. Inside observations, we have again observations, right? We will prove twice observations dot observations, data dot data. Inside this we have data, but data is an array and we have to pick the element of the array we are interested in. Right, it has gotten 44 elements. We are interested in first element, right? The index number of the first element is 0. It would be 0. And then now we have come inside this element, right now 0 dot. Now what we're interested in, air temperature. We'll write that will not go over here. I'll go over here. Let me copy this and then we'll discuss that what we are doing. On line number 6. what we are doing is that we are using this get function. Now what this function does is that the same function that we are providing, we are using over here. We are typing this URL in the URL bar, we are clicking on hit button, and what we are doing, we are sending a request to the server to get the space right. Similarly, when we want to get something from the server, we use this function called get. Now this function is available in the object called HTTP. HTTP get, and whatever the URL from which we will extract the data will, mention that URL. Now it will retrieve the data, it will retrieve this entire file, and then it will. Now we can see the data over here. But apart from that, whenever a response is received, it has got some metadata, as if some headers, status, port, and some other data which is required, for the communication to happen. But it is not the actual data, right? It is not the data that we are going to replace, but that is required for the, data transfer and data communication. Or now whatever, this get function will be returning. We are going to store this in a responsible now, as I told you that we are not going to take everything from response, because whatever it will return is, some is some metadata and everything. We are interested in response.content. The response is an object, and object has multiple properties. One of the properties called content. Apart from that, it has status code error or, and these things that we are not interested. We will write response.content. Response.content means this thing, this entire thing. This is my response.content. Now we are using this function of the platform library called platform.function.passtation. Now, what this function does is this response.content is in the form of a string. Now, if I tell you the string is a sequence of characters, it does not have the value in a key and pair value, right? If I want to retrieve something from here, then I need this like a structure. I need this key and value that I can use this dot structure and I can extract the value. But whenever to return this post-work content, it will be nice string format, and the string does not have this key value. What I need to do? I need to use this function called fastJSON. It will pass the string into JSON. JSON means key value, key, and when it will. Now after passing it will return. Maybe object to write responser.content is a string. After passing, it will return the JSON, basically the data in the JSON format, and that is nothing but the option. Now I will get the same data in this particular format, and this entire data in this format is stored in this variable called obj. If you go to the network tab, if you can see this entire thing, observations, it is nothing now, it is my object. Now we have got this object in our key value format, and in the object as well. Now what I'll do? Let me come in this part and show you what it looks like. First of all, right, let me write this response.content, right, what it contains, and then we'll go ahead. This will be, we are able to get everything right. Observation, this issued everything. This entire data we are able to get. But if you can see, this is in a string format, but we need to convert this into a JSON format, like it will be converted, and then it will return me the object. Now what I want to do? That since now it is converted into a JSON format, I have this key value and I can, use this dot method to retrieve the value. Whatever we have written, I'll just copy this thing now, that first observation as like we have stored everything into this object, right? I'll use this observations. Now this object now. This entire observations is my object. Now inside object, I have got observations, right? You can just see that we have renamed the outermost box as object. Now inside that we have observations, inside that box we have data. Now data has got multiple elements. Now we are interested in the first element. Inside that first element we have got the final gift, that is air temperature. I think we should reverse. Let me do this. This is written in 14 as we expected. It's the value 14 over here. Now, similarly, what we need to do, we need to extract the different values as well. Like let's say here's f, not yet whatever it is, we need to extract couple of values and we need to extract the same kind of values from different elements, right? Whenever we do the same thing again and again, we are going to use the format. Now let me come in far. Any conclusion like what we are doing? We'll understand this more. What we are doing is that we will be object extensions. We have a function called a platform.function.abstractData. It is going to do in this state extension whether that it will find whether the record is present or not, and if it is present, it will update the record at the value toData will work. I've already created this extension called whether t. Let's go. It has got the reports. Let me delete all the reports first of all, and then we will insert two reports. We state them to all that quite small, and then what we are going to do that. This in this state extension. Whether the system will go and will find that these two fields set local daytime, full and edgy product. These two fields, local daytime, full and AD product, it will find and it will extract the value from here, write object.observation.data. Local daytime. We are using the loop and the loop. We understood that the value of I will keep incrementing and it will start from 0, really start from 0. First of all, the value would be this. We have local time for this one. It will fetch the value from here and it will see whether this value is available in the data extension. Right now, the entire data extension is empty. It will not find any mature report. Then what it will do? It will create a new report with all the venues. Now the rest of the values that we have is name, air temperature related humidity, and the values for these fields are going to come from these fields or these properties of the j.observation data name, air temperature, and then relative humidity, where we have all these properties. We understood because we already saw the air temperature, and then we have this relative humidity. All these properties are inside this object. This is the name, and then we are going to, pick one record, insert an extension, another record, insert the restriction. Now how long it will keep running until the for loop will terminate? When it will terminate, when the condition will become false. When the condition will become false. We have a property called length. Each and every array, by default, internally have a property called length, and it contains the total number of elements in the air. Data is an array, right? bj.observations or data and content. It will return me 44 because we have total 44 reports. Now what we are saying that we want to from 0 to 143, it will be, its total number of elements will be 144. Let me remove this and let me execute this now. When it's come here and let's see, we have got one extra report. We have got 140, but we only have 140 reports or have the increased reports. Actually, earlier they had only 144 records, but now I think they have expanded the services and now they're covering one more city. Now the total is starting from 0 to 144. It means 145 records, right? That's correct. Now they are extracting the value from this first element is totally essential and things like that. We talked about the get function, or we talked about the fast JSON function, and then we talked about the for loop. We talked about the upside data function and these things. The important part here is that you know to understand that how we can extract the value from the object. That is more important. I mean, these functions you will be, you can do just by passing some inputs and things like that. But generally, the students face issue while accessing the data from the object. That is something that you would need in future as well. I think we also talked about, I think we did, whatever. There is a stringify functions. What it does is that we shall move. Actually, we understood that each function takes some input and then is going to be posted at input and then it is going to return something as output, right? And each and every function has some capability that what kind of input that it can take. Now if I'll do this thing right, response now. Response is an object and what we are doing that we are telling this function called right that take this object and print it on the screen, but it doesn't have the capability to print the object on the screen, right? For example, if I'll write like this, write respond and then do that should be published, and what will happen? It will throw me there that I don't know. I'm not able to print I don't know how to print the object on the screen, right? What we need to do that we have got one function called stringify. It can only take a string right as a data. We will stringify this, which means we're going to convert this object into a string that we can pass this into a function word, right, as per its capability, and then it can print the content of this object on the screen. Now let's do this. Now we are able to see that since now it is converted into a string and write function can print the screen and not the object, where we are going to use the stringify where we need to print something on the screen or we need to basically insert something into a data solution. And whenever we see the data in our object format and we need to convert this into a string, then we will remove this function. And then we talked about upset data. Now, we are almost done with the for library functions and the platform library functions. Just a second. Sorry for the delay. Now we are going to talk about the fabulous proxy functions. What are these actually? We already talked about it that no, they are going to help us to make the course faster when we are making the course by the Soapy Paint. This is the alternative and we will understand their true potential when we come to the Soapy Paint. But let's just discuss this, how it works and the different things that it means. Let me copy this code and then push it over here. Line number 3. What we're going to do? First of all, we are going to create an object on the base proxy, a script will come, and then we are going to store the reference return. We are going to store the reference of this object into a variable called proc_serve. And then, henceforth, we are going to use this procs variable wherever we are going to use this object. We have got one function called createItem of this object. We are going to utilize that one, and we need to pass two parameters over here. The first parameter would be the name of the object that we want to create. We want to create a data extension, and then we need to pass the information which is required to create a data extension. We'll pass this variable called e, and it contains the information. Now, since it contains the information, we are going to store different properties. We are going to use an object to store all this information. We have name, customer key description, and all the fields that we want to create. I think we already discussed about the name, customer key, and everything. Name is in this name of the data extension is stored in this variable called name, and this name is equals to my testimony and then GUID. Now what is this GUID? What we talked about, the GUID function gives us a unique estimate. It gives us the unique estimate of 36 characters or 32 characters, 32 or 36, and then it will return. Now, what is the benefit of this GUID? Let's say if you are creating this data extension dynamically, we don't need to be worried about it, whether the data extension with the same name already exists or not. We just, calculate it, and it will always be unique because GUID will give us a unique name and the customer key would be GUID only. And this is the description of the data extension. And then we have all these fields, and this one was one property called category ID. Now, what is this property? That category ID is nothing but the folder ID. What is the folder ID? That if we go to any folder and then we hover over any folder, then at the bottom we just write above the toolbar and you will be able to see. If I hover over this, just right over the toolbar, if you can see the category ID. Let me write 174.68. It would be 7 or 468, and if you do not provide this, then you automatically do it. Then it is searching the parent folder. I think we should be good. And now let's do one bit. Let's click from. We have not faced any errors. Let's go to this thing and then see that. Here we are created. Let me know the details with my test. You will find menu. We have got multiple. But if you look at the date, it is July 3rd. That is the one-day date extension that was created. This should not be. It is amping, and we can see the ID name as a field, and we have configured. We had two fields. The name is ID and name, and these are the respective field type. Now, similarly, you can utilize any useProxy function, and then you can, let's say, if you want to create a subscriber, and whatever it is, you can just use the same. You just make sure that when you are creating new object first, and then you are utilizing its functions. Next step, we are going to discuss a trial test block. Let's understand this. What we are going to do is that we are experiencing this error while executing this mode type. Actually, lately we are facing some issues with this mode. Like it is executed sometimes, and sometimes it shows the error. I put in the backend. There is some problem with this function. What we are going to do, that we are experiencing or we are anticipating that the error might come from this particular line of code type. I will wrap this board inside my trial block. Try and then a view braces, and then it is ending over here. Now I will use this sketch block and then I will write it. I can give any variable name which will capture the error in case the error occurs. Now I will use this view braces, and what I will do, I will use this write function to print the error of this body by body in case any error occurs. Like this, and I will run this and see whether it is printing or not printing the error or whatever it is. It is showing us the error adding the data extension. Now, before using the trial catch, we were not able to understand why it is showing the error right. But now, since I think at this line the error occurred and it captured the error and then it passed the error to this variable, and inside this variable, we have stored this content and we are going to print the content. Let me check what's going on with this function. When we run this and it doesn't execute, but after some in the back end it is executed and we can see the results. There's some problem going on. This is how we can utilize the try and catch, and it is very important that whenever we are writing lines of code, then we need to make sure that we are using the try and catch in case any error occurs. Right now what we are doing is this. We are printing this on the skinom, but it is not going to be useful, right? Because then we are writing the code and it is running, it is live. Then you know it is being executed multiple times in a day. And what we want to do, we can write the insert data function over here, and then whatever the error terms, we can insert that error code or error description in a data extension that we can create it on the error node. Let's say every day or maybe after a month we can check probably how many errors that came through this. Anybody has any doubt for? We are almost finished with the SDS, in which we talked about two libraries and the API. Sorry for the inconvenience. In API, first of all, we will understand that why wouldn't we need API? And then we will understand why the creators of the API felt this need that we should have the API. The communication can happen like why the API was created or invented. Let's understand this also. Let's forget about any technology or anything like that. We are in a time where no technology was there. What used to happen is that, let's say, if you want to come, like if you wait and website has, multiple layers, right? One, we have a data layer. I mean, that is a back end layer, and we have a front end layer which we interact. Whenever a website is developed or, any application is developed, it contains multiple layers. We have a back end and let's say 2 layers, and we have a front end. Now, front end is always designed that a human being or normal person or normal user can capture or can interact with our website, right? If I want to use Marketing Cloud, I'm not going to go to the server and access that code and utilize that and run those functions and execute those files which are sitting on the server, right? That is not going to happen. For the external users or for the end users, what developers do that? They basically create one interface that is called a user interface, a UI that normal users like us or maybe all the end users can access. The application can interact with the application, right? User interface means that a user can interact with the web application that they have come up with. The UI, that is user interface. Now later on, the need came into picture that not only the users, but there are many situations when the application itself want to communicate with another application. Right now, what is happening? That we as a human being or we as a user are utilizing or accessing this web page or this web application for good. But when we have a need, that external web application, let's say e-commerce website, wants to communicate with the Marketing Cloud to send the email communication or the SSMS communication or maybe any other, database that we have that, wants to communicate with our Marketing Cloud application. There are many scenarios where application itself wants to communicate with marketing. In that case, what we are going to do that, a UI will not work because the application is not a human being. It does not understand all these colors, all these. It doesn't need all these fancy buttons, all these fancy layout, all these, interactive UI, nothing like that. It only needs the data. It only, understands the language of data and does not need any of these things. What developers did that? If they came up with this concept of API, which means Application Programming Interface, they said, for end users, for a human being, they came up with a UI, and if any application wants to interact or consume the data, wants to communicate with the other application or let's say Marketing Cloud, then they are going to use the API, which is Application Programming Interface. There is two interfaces for humans like us. We are accessing the application. And for applications, any external application, any other system that you can think of, they can interact with Marketing Cloud using API. We have Application Programming Interface. Now here we can see. We can see what it looks like. It has got some super terms and everything, but what the API looks like, right? That's something we are going to expose it, what it looks like, how we're going to define this, and basically just how the end system or any other application is going to utilize the API. And in order to make the communication happen or in order to communicate with the marketing system. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.